Hello, and welcome back to Surviving to Thriving for Highly Sensitives. And as always, we're here to just address how to move from feeling like we're struggling and just barely surviving in a world that's just too big and too loud, too busy, overall, just feeling too much, and get to a place of calm and really thriving as highly sensing people. And I'm your host and high sensory coach, Tammy Goen. And as always, I'm really glad to have you here. And I'm really here to help all highly sensing people to stop hiding and feeling wrong, stop playing small and trying to be less sensitive, less of who they are, and really come to honor the amazing and unique skills and talents that come with sensitivity, and to be able to embrace that nature and become a gentle and strong force in the world. So thank you again for being here. And this week, we're going to continue our theme on diversity and look at diversity and empathetic communication. Communication is good for everyone, right? But we're going to talk about it in terms of that extra piece with that neurodiversity, or specifically sensitivity. And starting with some quotes, as I like to do. The first is from, let's see. Sorry, just checking to see if I have the right one here. Yes, okay. Roy Bennett, from his book, I'm assuming, The Light in the Heart. Listen with curiosity, speak with honesty, act with integrity. The greatest problem with communication is that we don't listen to understand. We listen to reply. When we listen with curiosity, we don't listen with the intent to reply. We listen for what's behind the words. And I'll be getting to a lot of the things that are addressed in that, but I just really liked how that brings everything all together. And that idea of, and this is something that we tend to be really good with, listening behind the words, picking up what's not actually said. We tend to be pretty good at feeling those things. So that's, a benefit that we have going into that field of communication. And a second quote: anything that's human is mentionable, and anything that is mentionable can be more manageable. Excuse me. When we can talk about our feelings, they become less overwhelming, less upsetting, and less scary. The people we trust with that important talk can help us to know that we are not alone. And that was actually a quote by Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers. So again, I'll be addressing a little bit of that, but that was obviously focused mostly on feelings. And there are many times that we're going to want to have some good communication to address our feelings or manage or help others with theirs. So I just appreciated those quotes and wanted to start getting us thinking of things in that direction. So communication in general can be challenging for everyone. It's important for everyone in every arena. And in our interconnected world these days, effective communication is that much more important. And social media does not make this easier. So whether we're talking about personal relationships, professional settings, or social interactions, the ability to understand and respect diverse viewpoints is essential for us to have meaningful connections and to collaborate and to have any kind of resolution on anything. So as HSPs, how do we foster healthy communication despite the differing opinions and coming from a place of being or feeling so different than average? So some keys are incorporating things that we already are primed for. So we have high empathy, ability for active listening, and being able to compromise for bridging gaps between people and having different viewpoints. And we're pretty good at being able to see things from multiple perspectives. So we have a little heads up on that. I'll be talking more about things that maybe can get in the way. But diversity is more than just that reflection of cultural differences. It encompasses a wide range of viewpoints shaped by everyone's backgrounds and experiences and beliefs. And these diverse perspectives enrich our interactions, just as I've talked about how diversity in general enriches everyone's lives. And so these can be very, very beneficial, and they can pose some challenges to effective communication. So misunderstandings, stereotypes, biases, including those for neurodiversity and specifically sensitivity, can create barriers to meaningful dialogue and make it important to cultivate empathy and understanding. And again, we're poised for that, but things can kind of get in the way for us in particular. So it's very common for sensitives to feel misunderstood, and it's easy for us to take things personally and feel more judged than sometimes we might actually be. And of course, when we are judged harshly, we can take that very hard and hold on to it, and assuming that we won't be heard or understood in the future. And that can really color our interactions with specific people. And our expectations can impact our communication a lot. So what if we use our innately higher levels of empathy to improve our communication? Empathy lies at the heart of any effective communication, whether you're sensitive or not. It involves the ability to understand and share the feelings of others, to actually experience things, put ourselves in someone's shoes, providing a foundation for connection and mutual support. By practicing empathy, we can acknowledge and validate diverse perspectives, fostering trust and cooperation in our interactions. And empathy allows us to approach conversations with a more open mind and genuine curiosity, creating space for meaningful dialogue to actually happen. And again, of course, as long as we don't let certain things get in the way. So one of those things, or a couple of those things really, is being able to step back from both perfectionism and our expectations. So we must be able to let go of our preconceived ideas, including what we assume someone else thinks of us. And it's challenging to connect with our empathetic side if we feel we have to protect ourselves or act in a certain way while we're connecting with others. So this is where active listening comes in. And of course, being able to, just as I've said, just let go of those expectations. So if we're going to actually listen actively and have a quality communication with someone, we need to be able to step outside of our other ideas, our assumptions, our fears of what's going to happen, and just be present, just be totally in the moment, actively listening. So let's talk about what that is like. It's really, really important for any type of communication, and especially being empathetic, that can make sense to us. And we need to just be able to engage without all of that other stuff getting in the way. So it really means engaging fully with the speaker, whoever's turn it is to talk, whoever is presenting something, and understanding their message beyond just the words that are spoken. And then also giving each person that space to present their experience, which is likely to be very different than ours. So if we're in a really calm place, we can be really, really good at this. So if we are planning to have an actual conversation with someone, working specifically on communication in some form, if there's a difficulty we're addressing, something that we keep running into, we need to make sure that we're really in this calm, centered place in order to be open to hearing and being empathetic and moving away those tendencies to guard and to expect things to not go well. So it requires us, active listening, to pay attention, withhold judgment, and reflect on what's being said, and then respond appropriately. So by actively listening, not just going through the motions or having some preconceived idea of how it's supposed to end up, we demonstrate respect for the other person's viewpoints and create an environment that is conducive to more dialogue, to things being worked through, so that we're not setting somebody off with their own issues, their own fears or judgments or assumptions that things are not going to work. And if we ourselves are harboring resentment while trying to listen, then we're going to be challenged and probably miss some of the things that the other person is saying, both the words and the meaning. If we're locked in our heads of feeling like, oh, I need to make sure this person sees me in the right way, we're not going to be actively listening at all. And then that moment is really lost. And we're back into reinforcing those patterns that are not working. So one of the biggest hurdles to successful listening is the need to make our needs and experience heard. And of course, we want that. And I talk a lot about that, right? We want, as sensitives, we want our needs to be heard. We want to get the support that we want and need and deserve. But when we're talking about communication specifically, we need to be able to step back from that need in the moment, allowing for that other person to have the floor or have their say, and then be able to present ours when it's the appropriate time. So if we're just focusing on getting our point across, we're going to really miss what's happening from that other person. So one really powerful way to experience this active listening and develop more effective communication is this really simple communication technique. You have, first, again, you want to calm yourself, make sure that you're in a really good place and open to listening and willing to give the benefit of the doubt to whoever it is that you're communicating with. And then you decide who's going to go first. So this is not everyone speaks at once. Real focus on active listening. One person speaks at a time. And it's not just, me, you, me, you, me, you. It's very definite, very specific. This is your time. You're on stage, basically. So one person gets to go first. They have the floor, and they're the only person that can talk. So the other person then goes into listener role, and they just listen fully without stepping in at any point to add anything or to counter what's being said, even if you don't see it the same way or it doesn't make any sense to you at all. Whatever it is, it's just a time for being silent, being open, receiving that information, no interruptions. And that can be really, really challenging if someone is saying something that you do not agree with at all, or you saw it in a completely different way and you really want them to understand that. You'll get your chance when it's your turn and you have the floor. But when this person is talking, the key to making all of this work is truly, truly listening. So even if you're not going to agree by the time they're done, if you are being in that place to be able to give them that space, you're honoring them and you are actually seeing where they're coming from. Again, even if it's different, it doesn't mean you have to agree with them when they're done, but you are allowing for where they're coming from to arrive and to be received. And that's the beauty of that active listening and being able to make this work. So when that first person is done, rather than the second person jumping in and saying, okay, my turn, that listener then summarizes, confirms everything that's being said by saying, okay, so this is in a summary, in a short version, this is essentially what I just heard. And so phrases that we can use are what I heard was, and, or as I understand it. And then you just give a little summary to the speaker, and then stop. And then that first person will say either, okay, yeah, maybe they'll say, thanks for listening or whatever, but they'll say, yeah, okay, you got it. That's the gist of it. Or they'll say, no, that's not quite it. And then they get a chance to clarify, to add to whatever seems to be missing or whatever it is that kind of got misconstrued. They're able to, try to come at it from a different point, different words if they can, but to say, oh, no, what I meant by this was, or what I want you to understand is this, and do some clarification. And then that listener, still in that role of listening, then again says, oh, okay, so this is what I got this time. And then you do that until that first person feels that they've truly been heard, that they've been, and it's not even like they get acceptance, a feeling of acceptance just because you're listening. It doesn't mean that, again, that you're going to just agree with everything they just said, but they can feel heard if you said, this is what I heard you say. Am I missing anything? We can throw that in at the end. Just say, okay, this is my take on this. Is that all good? So once that person, the first person who's speaking, says, okay, yeah, you got it. Thank you. Thanks for listening. Then the listener gets to become the speaker. And then that first person, even though there's all this all the groundwork set and they've had their piece, there might be some things that won't quite jive, and they'll say, oh, no, wait, but didn't you hear what I just said? Or so none of that can happen. The speaker becomes the listener and does the things exactly the same way as the first time. And again, it's all about listening, truly listening, not worrying about what's coming next, because each of you has plenty of time, and then there's time together afterwards. So again, shifting into that pure listening, active listening role, and then going back and forth until that speaker feels completely heard and understood, and that the information has been received in an accurate way. Again, it doesn't mean that there's agreement. That if you make the rules based on agreeing, it's not likely to happen and be successful. It has to be just acceptance that and acknowledgement. This is what I heard. This is what I feel like you're saying. And then that person says yes. And then both of you know that you've each been heard by the other. And then you can move forward to see what else can then happen. So once both people do feel that they've been fully heard, you can discuss. So it's great to be able to say things like, and be really open with this. I never knew that X, this event or experience, left you feeling like Y. Or now I have a better understanding, even though I don't see it the same way, I can kind of get where you're coming from now. Or whatever kinds of responses that you might have to let the other person know, yeah, okay, you are getting it a little differently now, and you are open to being able to talk about it in a new way. So then one powerful question that comes up is, or can be used, how can I help you with X, with whatever this situation is? And there's no, you have to start with the first person or second person, however this starts to flow. But you can ask each other, oh, okay, so I see that this becomes an issue because of this feeling or assumption that you have, that you've portrayed what you're thinking is happening. And this is the way I'm seeing it, and what I'm saying, where I'm coming from, there's conflict between there. There's something that's not quite jiving. How can I help you with this situation? Or how can this be seen differently? Or what can we do about this particular difference? And then just being able to ask that disarms any kind of defensiveness and tends to create that opening for really good dialogue about, yeah, how can we get this stuff to work out? So when we see things from others' perspective, even if we don't agree, we can understand more about how they come to where they are, why they speak or act as they do, even if we wouldn't do it that way. And we run into that a lot as sensitives, that will just see something that somebody does or says and think, how could they possibly do that? I would never in a million years do that. But they're coming from a different place. So when you have that communication where you understand, you hear how it is they came to that decision, then you wouldn't necessarily have changed what you would do. But now you could say, oh, okay, so they do it because this is where they are in their head, and this is what it means to them, not because of what I thought it meant. That's a lot of things that, those things that can get refined and shifted when we realize that we're making assumptions on someone else's behavior or speech or interactions because we come from our own viewpoint. We're looking through our own lens. So when we let go of that need to be right and vindicated, and then truly actively listen and be open to helping and resolving things, then things can actually shift pretty quickly. It's amazing how important it is for people to just be heard and to be validated. So once you've reached that point, then it is time for that compromise. So it's really important to be able to find some kind of common ground and reach some kind of mutually acceptable solution, even if it's not what either party wants. And quite often that's what it is. That's what a compromise is, right? you say, well, this is what I want, this is what you want, we're not going to get it from each other. What can we do that's agreeable for both of us? And that requires some flexibility, that empathy, and a willingness to explore the alternatives, not just to shut our brain off and say, nope, it's my way or no way, and be able to say, okay, well, how could this be managed? And be able to allow for those things to feel okay for us, to say, well, this is what I want, but can I be okay with this? Or what could I be okay with? And being able to compromise in that way of saying, yeah, okay, I'm willing to allow for these differences. Now, we're going to always have certain things that are just deal breakers in certain things. And maybe it's like, well, okay, I cannot go to a movie with you because we can't agree on these things, and it's too important for me. Let's do something else. I mean, that's a very simplistic example, but sometimes there are things that we just say, no, it's my morals, it's my beliefs, whatever, are too strong. This will not work for me. And if it's something that's workable to just not go there, you can make that choice. But if it's something really important that's going to keep building on itself, usually we need some kind of a compromise to be able to work those viewpoints together so that everyone can still feel heard and supported and able to manage that situation. So if we can really commit to cultivating that empathy and the understanding in our interactions, then we can begin to feel more heard and validated, and then be there for others in that way that we really want to be. So we have the empathy, the active listening, and then the compromise. So if we can focus on those things, everything will move along much more gently and in a happier, more harmonious way with all of those relationships that we have. So if you're really struggling with this and feeling not heard, really struggling with the communication, feel free to reach out. And if it's just too much to be doing on your own, I would love to talk with you to see how we might work together to create that harmony in your relationships, and just see what might be possible. Sometimes we just need that extra little guidance to get past where we're blinded within our own experiences, and just have that extra little support. So do reach out. And I'm Tammy Goen. Thank you again for joining me on Surviving to Thriving. And I look forward to seeing you again next week. Have a really great one.